Good evening, everybody in the gallery and everybody watching at home. Welcome to the August 2017 Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors monthly meeting. First up will be invocation by Supervisor Walk, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
We pray. Heavenly Father, gracious God, thank you for the lavish blessings of freedom. Give the leaders of our land moral integrity, honesty, and unity in purpose. Protect those that protect us, and guide us as we go about our county business. Lord, always having you and the citizens of Manitowoc County foremost in our making our decisions. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Walk. Roll call is going around. 24 members are present, so we do have a quorum. Supervisor Weiss is excused this evening. Next up will be consideration and correction of our minutes, if any, from our July 18th, 2017 County Board meeting. Motion by Supervisor Benke, second by Supervisor Baumann to approve the minutes as submitted. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried, and the minutes are approved. Next up will be additions or deletions, and I will turn it over to County Clerk Lois Keel.
Under Roman numeral 12, letter K, the petitions. Number 1, James C. Hansen, Town of Schleswig; Kenneth Coleman, Town of Manitowoc Rapids; Sandy Rivers, LLC, in care of Timothy Fry, Town of Kossuth; Planning and Parks Commission, Manitowoc County, has been added, and that is all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Lois. There's a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Motion by Supervisor Henriksen, second by Supervisor Marish. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried, and the agenda is approved. All right, if I could have the County Executive Ziegelbauer meet me at the podium along with, we'll start off with Clerk of Court Lynn Zigman, and I think there she is in the front row. She comes up, we have a couple of proclamations. All right, let's see, I hope I got them in the right order here. Yes, well, I did, so that would have been a little embarrassing. All right, first up, we have a proclamation declaring September as Juror Appreciation Month. Whereas the right to a trial by jury is one of the core values of the American judicial system. Service by citizens as jurors is indispensable to the judicial system. And the privilege and duty of serving as a juror is as fundamental to democracy as the right to vote. And whereas the Wisconsin State Court System, partnering with the State Bar of Wisconsin, has established September as Juror Appreciation Month to set aside a time to publicly recognize the contribution of those who are summoned and serve as jurors, to improve communication with jurors and employers, and to disseminate a positive message about jury service, and to reinforce public confidence in the justice system. And whereas the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors supports the goal of educating the public about jury duty and the importance of jury service, applauds the efforts of jurors who fulfill their civic duty, and believes all jurors should be treated with respect and in a way so that their service is not unduly burdensome. Now, therefore, we, Bob Ziegelbauer, Manitowoc County Executive, and Jim Bry, Manitowoc County Board Chair, along with the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors, hereby proclaim the month of September as Juror Appreciation Month here in Manitowoc County. Here you go, Lynn. It's all right. That's okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for the service you do to the county as well. And if we got next up, we have Kathy Lay, who is our director at Aging and Disability Resource Center. Good evening, Kathy. Good evening. We have a proclamation recognizing Fall Prevention Awareness Month. Whereas more than 1/3 of people over the age of 65 fall every year, resulting in doctor visits, hospital admissions, emergency room visits, loss of functional independence, and even death. And whereas fall-related hospitalization and emergency department visits result in nearly $2.7 billion in charges in Manitowoc County every year, 63% of which are paid by Medicare. And whereas multiple contributing factors increase the risk of falls, including lack of strength in lower extremities, use of 4 or more medications, reduced vision, chronic health problems, and unsafe home conditions. And whereas injuries from falls are preventable community public health problem, and a variety of preventive practices have been proven effective. And whereas Wisconsin is a leader in falls prevention research. And whereas Manitowoc County's Aging and Disability Resource Center, the Public Health Department, and the Manitowoc County Falls Prevention Coalition are leaders in producing evidence-based community fall prevention programs to older citizens in our county. And whereas community-based programs in combination with public health and healthcare preventive practices reduce the likelihood of falls and support older persons in maintaining health and staying safe in their communities. And whereas a reduction in the incidences of disability and death due to falls is a priority of our Healthiest Manitowoc County agenda. Now, therefore, Chairperson Jim Bry and County Executive Bob Ziegelbauer hereby recognizes the month of September as Fall Prevention Awareness Month, and further recognizes September 22nd, 2016 as Fall Prevention Awareness Day in Manitowoc County. Thank you for all your help on this, Kathy, and your department. Would you like to say a few words, please?
I just wanted to share with you some statistics about falls in our county. According to 2010 and 2011 data, Manitowoc County ranked second highest in the state for the number of fall-related deaths. So Manitowoc County developed a falls prevention team, of which the ADRC was a partner, and the team was also a part of the Healthiest Manitowoc Counties initiative. A number of strategies and endeavors were taken on by various partners, stakeholders, and providers in our community. We are happy to report that as of the latest data, Manitowoc County has dropped to the 10th highest in the state for the number of falls. That's good news, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So the efforts of the committee and its partners will continue in coalition with the Healthiest Manitowoc Counties. On behalf of the ADRC of the Lakeshore, the Manitowoc County Falls Prevention Team, and the Healthiest Manitowoc County, I want to thank the County Board for declaring this month to be Falls Prevention Awareness Month. Thank you.
All right, next we have a presentation by Jason Latva, who is our new, I thought you were our drug coordinator, correct? Our drug court coordinator, prevention, treatment, alternatives, and diversion coordinator. Is that more, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
treatment alternative and diversion.
I'm sorry, I botched up your name right away, so.
No, that's all right. TAD is a grant that
But it's your
funds this
first
program.
opportunity to speak to the county board and the public, so we welcome you tonight. Thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Chair Brian. Good evening, everyone. How are you? So I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about the pretrial diversion and drug court program. These programs are programs that are grant funded through the TAD grant, the Treatment Alternative and Diversion Grant that Manitowoc County applied for and received this year. 5-year grant renewable every year. So what are diversion programs? And I'm going to try my best not to read from this. Diversion programs are just what they sound like. It's a program that's attempting to divert somebody that's involved in the criminal justice system away from jails, prisons, institutions. The reason for that is we all know that those things cost a lot of money. So if we're able to keep the person in the community, keep the person working with their family, hopefully it's going to result in better results. Sorry, Pat, thanks. Purpose of diversion include relief to the courts, police department, probation. Like I said, better outcomes compared to direct involvement in the court system. and an opportunity for the offender to avoid prosecution by completing the requirements, which is a big one, because those of you that don't know what it's like to try and get a job, especially with a felony on your record, is not the easiest thing in the world. So the old system, when it comes to substance-related crimes, criminal justice issue, punitive-based. We punish first. Treating individuals with substance use disorders as criminals. We shame them, force them into stopping via some form of confinement, arrest, convict, imprison, repeat. So very cyclical. Old system problems, we know it's ineffective. War on drugs been going on for over 40 years since Nixon, and we are not in a better spot today. If we look at these numbers, overdose deaths, in 1971, the national average was 1.7 overdose deaths per 100,000 people. In 2014, it's 14.7 overdose deaths per 100,000 people. To put Manitowoc County in perspective, I believe Manitowoc County was 13.6 heroin or opiate-specific overdose deaths in 2014, and that jumped up to 18.2 in 2015. Pretty horrible numbers. Pathetic, really. It's expensive. The war on drugs costs a lot of money, and that money was being thrown away for absolutely no good results. Over $1.5 trillion has been spent trying to prevent people from continuing to use drugs by using punitive measures. Lastly, it perpetuates stigma. The person is bad, not the substance use disorder. One of the biggest killers, obviously, besides the drugs, is the stigma that comes along with it. People fear to get help. People do not want to be labeled. So what's the solution? Well, a multifaceted, multidisciplinary approach, collaborating between agencies, common goals, shared vision, prevention, education, treatment, and continuing care. So the new system that we're looking at, when we look at the diversion and drug court, we're looking at it as a community health issue. It's recovery-based. Decreases stigma. We're working with a person, not working with a disorder. Deal with the disease of addiction as a society and community, not with strictly punitive measures. Surround people with support of their society and community, not isolate them from their society and community. And movement, obviously, towards this programming. If we take a look at the punitive style that we've had for so many years, how we expect people to come out and be a productive community member is by taking them out of the community and isolating them. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You're not going to help somebody become a better community member by putting them in isolation or with a number of criminals that truly are criminals. So, to be eligible for pretrial diversion, you need to be an adult, Manitowoc County resident, nonviolent offender with AODA or substance-related conduct. They need to have a low to medium criminogenic risk, and that's based on a COMPASS assessment that we will do with them. Medium to high needs, also based on the COMPASS assessment. The district attorney's office has to agree to diversion, and it's also voluntary, so no one can be made to join these programs. The length for diversion is 9 to 12 months. Some of the details, they'll meet with the Manitowoc County Court Diversion Program Coordinator, or myself, as scheduled. Complete all assignments. They're going to have to attend any sessions, treatment sessions, classes, support groups that are recommended. Be current with all treatment recommendations. Comply with all random alcohol and drug testing, which is done throughout the program. Comply with the deferred prosecution agreement, which the district attorney's office takes care of, and any other conditions determined by the coordinator. That could be if they are having some issues with life skills, anger management, communication. We'll make referrals to whatever programs they may need. And lastly, maintain sobriety. So the drug court model is a little bit different. We're dealing with a client that has pretty high needs, has a pretty significant drug, alcohol, and criminal history generally related to their drug and alcohol use. So most commonly requirements, substance-related charge or established substance abuse history at the time of arrest. Also, it has to be no history of violent offenses. Completion is based on the participant being drug and arrest free for a specific period of time while advancing through all the phases of the drug court program. And regular and frequent drug testing is involved anywhere from a minimum of 2 times a week all the way up to 7 times a week if that client needs that sort of attention. Participants may receive rewards or face sanctions based on their compliance with the rules of drug court. Rewards could include anything from verbal praise, certificates, gift cards, or moving on to the next level. Sanctions could include anything from verbal admonishment, writing essays, to actually spending time in jail or being terminated totally from the program. In order for the rewards or sanctions to be effective, we know they have to be immediate, certain, and fair, also of the appropriate intensity, which is the true art form of doing any program like this, is figuring out what they need, when they need it, and how much do they need. So drug court is an abstinence-based program with intense supervision. Very holistic. We're dealing with the whole person. We're not just looking at their substance abuse issues. Individualized treatment plans, once again, can't stress enough, matching the appropriate interventions at the appropriate time at the appropriate dose. Long-term evidence-based programming, including substance abuse treatment, aftercare, relapse prevention, some cognitive behavioral therapy, thinking errors. MRT is what we're going to be utilizing in Manitowoc County, which stands for Moral Recognition Therapy. Community support meetings like AA, NA, Smart Recovery, educational support, vocational support, life skills development, and basically a system that is designed to help those with substance use disorders reconnect with the world. Because the big thing we're focusing on is the community, being able to be a productive member of the community, so keeping them in the community. Drug court eligibility, adult, once again, nonviolent offender, AODA-related conduct, high criminogenic risk based on the COMPASS assessment that I had mentioned with the diversion, and also high needs based on that same assessment. Once again, completely voluntary program. Details, far more intensity equals far more requirements. So if we're looking at the diversion program in drug court as football, diversion program is probably like the Lincoln team, and drug court's kind of like the Packers. There's a big difference in what's required. They need to be absent from substances, follow through with all treatment requirements, follow through with all supervision requirements, frequent court attendance, advance through the 5 phases that we have developed, and it's going to be a minimum of 12 months to get through the program. So here's some facts regarding about these programs and how they work. They reduce crime. 75% of drug court graduates remain arrest-free for at least 2 years after leaving the program. And long-term outcomes of individual drug courts have found that reductions in crime last at least 3 years and can endure over 14 years. The most rigorous and conservative scientific meta-analyses have all concluded that drug courts significantly reduce crime as much as 45% more than other sentencing options. So if we take a look at that, 1 out of 2 people that would go into drug court rather than prison, it's going to help significantly, in turn helping society significantly. Here's a big one for most people. It saves money. Nationwide, for every dollar invested in the drug court program, taxpayers save as much as $3.36 in avoided criminal justice costs alone. When considering other costs, you can be looking at benefits that range up to $27 for every dollar that's invested. And when we take a look at reduced victimization, healthcare, drug courts produce cost savings ranging from $3,000 to $13,000 per client. These cost savings reflect reduced prison costs, reduced revolving door arrests, trials, reduced victimization. This is one of those programs that's difficult, though, because at the end of the year, you're not building up a bank account. You have to show that you're saving this money. So the greatest drug courts in the world aren't going to have a bank account that is just exploding with money at the end of the year. Our job is to save the county money. Lastly, ensuring compliance. Unless substance abusing addicted offenders are regularly supervised by a judge and held accountable, 70% drop out of treatment prematurely. Drug courts provide more comprehensive and closer supervision than other community-based supervision programs and are 6 times more likely to keep offenders in treatment long enough for them to get better. So future vision, create our own paths that work for Manitowoc County. Whatever those paths are going to be is what we're trying to figure out with starting up these programs. Collaborate with Comprehensive Community Services to build a hybrid wraparound program that we can utilize for our drug court clients. Would love to see in the future some availability of sober housing, some additional vocational training, and lastly, community integration, where we'll be able to get drug court alumni involved in the community, helping out the community in whatever way that may take. Do I take questions here?
All right, thank you very much for your presentation, Jason. Is there anybody who has any questions? You can chime in with your thing. I'm not getting anything. There we go. All right, Supervisor Mink, you have the mic.
Yes, thank you. I'm just going to go on record to say that I may not always agree with everything you just said, but I fully agree with what you're doing. I think saving the county money and not treating people with addictions as criminals is the best way of attacking this program. Historically, my degree's in history. Historically, you're absolutely correct with the war on drug has been a failure, and that I wish you much success because this county really needs it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll take all the luck I can get.
Thank you, Supervisor Mink. Anybody else wishing to speak or ask questions of Jason? All right, thank you once. Oh, we got, I'm sorry, we're up there. Supervisor Zimmer, I apologize. There we go.
What is meant by sober housing?
What sober housing is a housing complex with anywhere from 4 to 16 people. All the people in the complex are in recovery at the time. So it's a house with all people that are in recovery, generally ran really democratically, like house votes on who can come in when there's an open space. So it's a safe place where it's all people who are dealing with the same issues as you are, or someone in recovery. That's what sober housing is.
Was there like a monitor in attendance?
So what happens is, there's a couple different ways you can go. You might have heard of the Oxford House, which has been around for 100 years. But usually the house has a house manager, right? And that house manager takes care of running all the house meetings, taking care of all the responsibilities. If there's issues in the house, if somebody comes in drunk or they know they're using, they'll be the ones that are responsible for contacting the authorities, because that's generally not allowed. And then they'll have an outside entity come in for big house meetings, big decisions, if it's found that there's somebody running drug sales outside of the house or what have you. But it's generally ran as a democratic society, if you can call it that, in a little house form. That's kind of what sober housing is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Supervisor Zimmer. Supervisor Henriksen, you were next.
Chairman, okay, with the drug problem that's in our communities, basically, what kind of drugs are we going to be dealing with? I mean, basically here, I mean, you've got heroin, opioids. Are you going to bring these people in right as they're processed before the court date? You know what I'm saying? Because if they're, how are you going to get them with the withdrawal symptoms, I guess?
Well, generally, most of the people that are going to qualify for the drug court level, not so much the diversion level, but the drug court level, are going to be people that are either A, serving time in jail right now, and we're going to offer this to them pre-sentence, and then the DA will work out a deal with their defense attorney. So we should not be getting people right on the front end where you have to worry about the detox. We do have contracts with Pathways to things like that and Willow Creek, but we really shouldn't be getting people on that far of the front end where they're still going through withdrawal.
Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Supervisor Henriksen. Supervisor Dizak, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, based on just the numbers you showed, it's obvious that our current system of dealing with it is not effective. I'm a firm believer in if you do the same thing over and over again, expect different results. We know the answer.
Yeah.
So first of all, I commend you on at least trying something different. But a couple questions. First of all, the cost. Whose budget is this falling under? Which department?
It's all grant funded.
It's all grant funded.
It's all grant funded through the TAG grant.
Okay, and are we gonna be looking at success rate? In other words, okay, we have the numbers of, the drug use has increased, and we're gonna have some time frame where we go back and look and see if we've been effective at it somehow? We have a measuring device?
Yeah, I mean, generally, to get valid and reliable statistics, you usually look at 3 years for a drug court and diversion program until you get valid and reliable statistics. This first year, for example, we can enter 5 people into the drug court program in the first 2 months, 12 up until January, and then the cap comes off, realizing that you have to have enough people to deal with the clients, right? So we can't have 200 people when it's only me doing case management. I'm Superman,
I'm
but
looking at
not that big.
a broader measuring stick,
Yeah.
where, like you mentioned, we have, I think the number was like 14 or 16 in deaths per year per 100,000 in Manitowoc County.
18.5, I think,
18,
in
okay, are we gonna look at that?
2015.
That number needs to come down.
Oh,
And that's
And
what
how?
I'm hoping, the main, yes, we want to make these people back in society and treat the person. That's very important. But it needs to be an overall effective program. I think we need to make sure we look at that, and I don't know how far down the road you want to look before you have that number where you can say you're being successful.
I can tell you, as far as the opiate problem goes, in Manitowoc, our focus on the drug court is going to be for the substance abuse disorder people that deal with opiates. It's probably not going to be a lot of people who have marijuana issues. It's, our focus is going to be opiates, followed by most likely meth, which seems to be having an upkick. But that opiate number has to get down. I believe we were 6 in the state, and we're the 21st biggest county in the state. So the number was shocking when I first took this position.
One more question.
Yes.
You mentioned is grant money, grant from state or federal?
State.
State, thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Thank you, Supervisor Dizak. And I guess to follow up a little bit on the grant, if I understand the TAG grants for 5 years, correct, Jason?
It is. It's a 5-year grant that is renewable each year.
Right.
As long as you have your program running and the things you're getting clients in, it's almost like an auto renewal. But yes, it's a 5-year grant.
And as you mentioned, I think you've come pretty close to being Superman just starting this program out, because this is, from ground zero, you're starting
Yeah.
to build this up, so thank you very much. I know during the discussion of this the past several years, we've been talking about Eau Claire County and their successful organization there. Do you know how many people, now, you're essentially a one-man show right now. Do you know how many people are involved with the administration of Eau Claire's system?
Yeah, we actually visited Eau Claire's drug court in preparation of building this one up. Eau Claire, I believe, has 2 or 3 full-time case managers, and they also have their coordinator, which would be my position.
Right.
So most others, the coordinator deals with the programming, and the case managers deal with the clients. I just happen to be dealing with both here.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jason? Well, thank you very much once again. We appreciate all your effort and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And don't be a stranger if you ever have
No.
anything for the county board.
And I've had a lot of help. Pat Kappa, who's here.
Definitely.
Jim Falkowski, that's here. Mike Williams, that's here. These people have put a lot of time and effort into this program, so we've had a lot of help by a lot of good people.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
And of course, Bob has been very supportive. Have a good night.
All right, thank you again. Next up is public comment. If there's anybody from the gallery wishing to speak this evening to any matter germane to Manitowoc County, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed to come up here and speak for approximately 3 minutes. Just give your name and address. Is there anybody wishing to speak this evening to the county board? Is there anybody wishing to speak this evening? Yes, Maura. We'll start with you.
Good evening, Chip Yo, Centerville. In the wake of the passage of an almost $10 million bond passed unanimously by the Manitowoc County Board, supervisors are now considering imposing an additional 0.5% sales tax. County Executive Bob Ziegelbauer currently opposes the initiative. The Wisconsin State Department of Revenue estimates that the 0.5% sales tax would generate $5.5 million in additional revenue in Manitowoc County. In Sheboygan County, approximately 18% of the half-cent revenue comes from tourism. To a significant degree, economic growth, development, and tourism depend on a quality transportation system. Currently, 64 Wisconsin counties impose the 0.5% tax, including Kewaunee and Sheboygan counties. The Sheboygan County Board Chairman recently described to the county supervisors the reasons the tax was imposed and its benefits. Sheboygan County faced increasing road maintenance overlay costs that doubled over the past 10 years. Delayed road maintenance results in higher repair costs as road degradation increases. Manitowoc County faces the same circumstances. Benefits include a reliable funding source for county road work not dependent on property tax, revenue sharing with municipalities to assist with their road maintenance costs, increased operational flexibility, and direct property tax relief through reduced interest costs to taxpayers from bonded borrowing. No one wants higher taxes, but since Bob took office in 2006, inflation has increased by 24%. During that time, the county has continuously relied on bonding and refinancing debt to meet expenses. In 2006, the county's outstanding principal balance was $28 million, and 11 years later, it is $25.4 million. From 2011 to 2015, county records show taxpayers paid $5.5 million in interest. The recently passed bonding issue has a true interest cost of 2.95%. So is it less costly to pay an additional 0.5% sales tax as we go forward to avoid some of that much more expensive borrowing and refinancing? Thank you.
Thank you, Maura, for your comments. Is there anybody else wishing to speak this evening to the county board? Anyone else wishing to speak this evening? And for a third and final time, anyone else wishing to speak? See none, I'll declare public comment closed, and we'll move along with the agenda. Communications are shown on the agenda this evening. There's no unfinished business from our last meeting. Next up will be appointments by the county executive. First up will be a local emergency planning committee. Appoint one member to succeed Deb Holschbach, alternate Bonnie Range, and alternate Lisa Sherman for a 2-year term expiring to September 2019. And the recommendation is Amy John, with the alternate is Deb Holschbach. So motion by Supervisor Hendrickson, second by Supervisor Gauger to approve the appointment. Any discussion? See none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, motion carried, and an appointment is approved. Traffic Safety Commission, appoint one member to succeed Lynn Kaminsky, and the recommendation is for Julie Reimer. Is there a motion by Supervisor Hoffman, second by Supervisor Marsh to approve the appointment? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, motion carried, and an appointment is approved. Thank you very much. We'll jump to committee reports. First up will be Aging and Disability Resource Center Board. I'm sorry, Supervisor Droll, did you want to speak? I apologize.
That's okay.
I just want to welcome my friend Carson Getz here this evening. He's here with his scout troop, 932, to watch government in action. So, welcome.
Welcome, yes. I did have a chance to talk to him before the county board meeting, and I apologize, I should acknowledge you, but like I said, if there's anything you want after the meeting before, we'll answer questions. I know your dad was a former county board supervisor along as a chair, so it's sometimes good to go right to the horse's mouth, I guess, but it's still good to see things in live action, so thank you for coming, and I hope you're enjoying yourselves. Now we'll go to committee reports. First up will be Aging and Disability Resource Center Board Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bry. The next meeting of the ADRC will be September 26th, after the Commission on Aging, which starts at 10. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Board of Health is next. Supervisor Metzger is the chair.
We met August 10th. Amy provided the board with an update of the 2017 Health Department budget. We are currently working on personnel costs. The increase is estimated to be about 2%. Mary provided information to the board on communicable diseases for quarterly, and chlamydia January through March was 71, and it went down April to July is 57, and there were, for influenza, 56 cases reported. And for the environmental, Jessica discussed needed changes to the fee schedule, that we have 3 different temporary restaurant licenses that we have to work on. The changes will occur in the 2018 budget. Amy provided the board with information regarding the current nonprofit food stand program and the state's opinion that it is a conflict with our agent contract. An ordinance change will be drafted for the next Board of Health meeting. The WIC caseload for July was 1,061 participants, 637 families. Each WIC family receives $24 in paper vouchers to use at the local farmers markets. The next meeting will be September 14th, sorry. Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Metzger? Seeing none, thank you very much. Justice Coordinating Council, Supervisor Falkowski is our representative there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening. The meeting of the Manitowoc County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council was August 2nd. The Drug Court and Diversion Services Coordinator reported on the activities of the drug court team, status on the diversion program, and bail work group. Thank you to Mr. Lafta for his presentation today. Some of my reporting may be redundant, but there will be bullet points in this. The team training and travel was to observe the drug courts in operation. The status of the drug court policies and procedures were discussed. Anticipated start date, even if only as a test, will be August 16th. There is a post-conviction court, however, no one will be ready to participate. UA testing and monitoring have been arranged. Assessment tools for the services within the drug court is the Compass device. Training is advancing for the 3 treatment providers. Diversion program has been structured and approved by the state as of August 1st. A screening assessment has been created and completed by those who are booked into the jail right now. AODA treatment for participants will be provided by Manitowoc County Human Services up to intensive outpatient. Contracted spots are available for inpatient treatment if needed. Success due to the availability of the AODA services, not only for those that are accused of a criminal activity, but also of any residents in the county. The meeting was open to questions, and that was the end of that meeting. The next meeting that we'll have is September 6th. Thank you. That is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Falkowski? As Jason mentioned, I was involved a little bit at the beginning when the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council was just founded, and I wanted to get a different representative, and that's when we created the position for essentially, and I appointed Supervisor Falkowski. But you guys as volunteers doing a great job. I mean, Patricia Kopp is there. city attorney, county district attorney, the judges, there's a lot of people involved that are not getting paid extra for it, so I applaud all of you for working on this, and hopefully it will show some success, you know, just give it a little time, and I think over the next several years, we'll see that if it's working, so hopefully it'll continue, so thank you all very much for serving on that commission. Executive Committee, two things quickly. Supervisor Metzger informed me before the meeting tonight that she might not be able to go to the Wisconsin County Association Annual Conference, which will be Sunday through Tuesday, September 24th through the 26th. So if there's anybody that wishing to go, the county will pick up the tab for the conference in the hotel room and expenses such as meals if necessary. So if you're interested, if you could get to me by phone or email by the end of the week, that'd be great. If there's more than one person, I guess we'll just draw by seniority or draw lots or something like that. She will be able to go if no one else is going to step up. I would think that this WCA and the hotel reservations could be changed to people's names without any penalty. So if you're interested, don't be afraid to get a hold of me by phone or by email by this Friday. That'd be great. Next up, and I've talked with Supervisor Wagner tonight, who is, amongst other things, the chair of the Land Conservation and Land Conservation Committee, which will potentially, I guess, next month be dealing with our ordinance regarding deer baiting. As you're aware, the state of Wisconsin, through legislative action, took Manitowoc County out of the deer baiting ban, bait pile ban here in Manitowoc County, but with consultation with Peter Conrad, the Corporation Counsel, our ordinance is still in effect. Peter and myself met with Greg Shetter and Jason North from the Sheriff's Department, and we decided, as a plan, is to refer this to the Land Conservation Committee for action, whether we an outright repeal or to continue on. I know the Sheriff's Department has very much difficulty, in enforcing this due to manpower concerns. So, anyways, in the press release that was issued last Friday, stated that the Land Conservation Committee would be taking it up this Thursday at their August 17th Thursday afternoon meeting. They are scheduled for a 5-minute, essentially, what would you call it, presentation? Yes, it's a very quick meeting, so it wouldn't have been fair to try to jam this on there. So in consultation with Supervisor Wagner, who was the chair of that committee, look for September sometime to have a discussion on the baiting ordinance, and hopefully we can bring something to the county board at the earliest by October, the latest by October, or if the committee decides to stick with the policy, that's fine. It'll be definitely up to that, but we'll keep this moving. I just wanted to be known to, I hope people are watching, I hope they can be reported in the newspaper that the Land Conservation Committee will not be discussing the baiting ordinance this coming Thursday. It'll be held in a future meeting. All right, any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Expo Ice Center Board, Supervisor Kavanaugh is our representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Expo Ice Center Board met Wednesday, August 2nd. Basically, we went over the final plans for next week's fair. Parking was a big item that we went over. We walked around and discussed which lots would be filled first and so on. Hopefully everything will work out with that. It was announced that the fans are in the Lester's building and they are hooked up, and as I mentioned in previous meetings, this is because of all the donations is why these fans went in. So we're thankful for individual people and the businesses that did help out. We also filled in for volunteers and liaison officers for the different events at the fair. There was a discussion on rummage-a-ramas that we have. The first one would be starting in November, and kind of food for thought, I guess. We're thinking about raising the cost per table and not having a charge for the people that come in, but it's still in the discussion stage. We'll probably be at the next meeting, we'll probably be discussing it further. And our next meeting then will be Wednesday, September 6th, also at the Expo office, and that concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Kavanaugh? Looking forward to next week with the fair. It's coming quick. Thank you again to you and all the volunteers at Expo who wouldn't be able, we wouldn't have a greatest fair facility without that board and all the volunteers, so thank you very much. Finance Committee, Supervisor Hanson is the chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In the words of a good friend of mine who passed today, I got a couple tree tings to report on. Finance sold some property last night, 2 homes we put back on the tax rolls, met the bids on both of those. We also decided to advertise some lots out on North 8th Street that we now owned and try to move those along and put them back on the tax roll. We also talked about the 0.5% sales tax, but we only spoke of it in terms of, do we want to talk about this? And if we think about this, we have the 2 largest metropolitan cities in the county. The leaders of those 2 communities are asking. So as a finance committee, we decided that we will have some meetings to let people talk about it. And maybe that's what we need to do rather than just writing letters and yelling at each other. Let's have some meetings and have people discuss, and then we'll vote on it and see what happens. So everybody will be invited to those meetings, from the mayor and the city manager and the exec and anybody else who wishes to speak, and we'll let you know when those are going to happen. If there's another chairman who would like to join us in this endeavor, as they did in Sheboygan, there were 2 committees who got together and discussed this and brought it to the board. That would be wonderful. But if not, finance we got 5 people, and we'll take this on and we'll do it, and we'll have that conversation for Manitowoc County. So look for that in the future on when those meeting dates will be. And from that, I will turn it over to Supervisor Holzbach. He chaired the meeting that they talked about the new county board rules on charity deductions. So Supervisor Holzbach, it's your report at this time.
Should be all set, Supervisor Holzbach.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor Hanson. As many of you will recall, the county for many, many years, 15, 20 years, provided the opportunity for employees to make automatic payroll deductions to charitable organizations and nonprofits in the county. And then a couple years ago, the county board and the finance committee decided to take a look at a couple of the challenges of the program and also develop some criteria for the program. So I'm going to kind of try to hustle through a summary of the first 3 whereases, because I think they do a good job of explaining what it is, and then I'll quickly go through what the process is that we're proposing. But I'll just start at the beginning of the resolution. Whereas Manitowoc County is committed to improving the quality of life for all of its citizens and recognizes that private, not-for-profit organizations make a significant contribution to the quality of life in Manitowoc County. And whereas, from time to time, charitable organizations will request that Manitowoc County give its employees an opportunity to support their charitable actions through an automatic payroll deduction. And then here's kind of the operative whereas, where we get to the process that the Finance Committee approved. Whereas Manitowoc County currently does not have a policy that provides the criteria by which Manitowoc County will allow a charity to participate in its automatic payroll deduction system, the Finance Committee, again, met on this issue several times and had a lot of public input and a lot of good suggestions from supervisors. Supervisor Banky was one of the supervisors who suggested that there should be a more delineated process. So what we've developed is the following, and my colleagues on the Finance Committee can feel free to chime in, but from now on, if a charitable organization or nonprofit organization wants to benefit or have provide the automatic payroll deduction for county employees, the organization has to join with 2 elected officials, and elected officials in this case is a little different from our past operation. It can be county board supervisors, and then any of the following: county clerk, register of deeds, clerk of court, sheriff, treasurer, coroner, executive, or district attorney. So we would require that the organization join with 2 elected officials to propose to the Finance Committee, first bringing it to the comptroller, the county comptroller, to get it scheduled before the Finance Committee and proposed to the Finance Committee that they would like to participate in the program. The Finance Committee will consider each of these, but the one kind of threshold we set that I think we had a lot of agreement on was, once approved by the Finance Committee, an organization must obtain a minimum of 12 signed employee donation payroll deduction forms, so 12 employees. And if the organization fails to obtain 12 signed county employee payroll deduction participants before December 10th, preceding the calendar year they want to do the deduction in, for the upcoming year, the Comptroller's Office will not initiate the payroll deductions. So if there are at least 12 participants, then the Comptroller and staff will begin in that following calendar year the automatic payroll deduction process for that organization. So, Supervisor Hanson?
As Supervisor Holzbach said, we had to come up with a plan because we were getting organizations coming forward, and there is work to do this. There's work for our staff, and we did need to do something to get deductions on the same day and to make them the same number of times a month so our staff wasn't doing even more work. But it's a good thing to do this. It's a good thing to let organizations come in and say, can we get automatic deduction? It's just that we set the number 12 so there's enough interest. We had to set some kind of number or some kind of target, or we could do this for any number of organizations who come in and have 1 or 2 or 3 people. But this way, if you're an organization and you can go out and find 12 county employees, we will be glad to do this for you. They will have to provide all the information. They're going to have to send out the sheet. They're going to have to provide their employee numbers so payroll department can just plug everything in. So we think it's a good compromise. Some wanted more, some wanted less. 12 seemed like a good number. And this way we can continue to help those organizations who want to come in and have automatic pay deduction. So, with Supervisor Holzbach's explanation, I will move that we adopt resolution number 1, amending the county board rules.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson. Waiting for the second.
You have to use your little gray thing to second it.
We got one, it's
got
hard
one,
for me to
okay.
see for a second.
Do we have a second?
Second by Supervisor Kavanaugh, so. Discussion on the motion, Supervisor Baumann, you were first, and I saw your name up, but it was before the motion, but I assume you want to talk on the motion?
Okay, I just wanted to add that this is a year-to-year thing, that it only goes for a 12-month period, and then we start all over again. If there's not enough interest, we've also considered just discontinuing the donations, period, but we're gonna look at it for at least 1 more year.
Thank you, Supervisor Baumann. Supervisor Falkowski, you are next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand you established the the limits as far as the threshold of people participating in the payroll deduction. Was there any discussion about the minimum threshold for the donation itself? I mean, basically, you could have 12 people at $1 apiece. I'm not complaining. I'm just wondering
I
about
guess that would be okay, and that would be $12 a year.
That'd be fine.
I believe it's once a month it will come out. That will be our practice. Yes, so
Just
it's electronic.
trying to figure it
Thank you.
out. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Supervisor Zimmer, you are next.
This resolution, if approved, I presume will pertain to the United Way as well as any other charity.
Any charity that comes in, we will treat them all the same.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Zimmer. Yes, this resolution actually, just for information, but it's an actual addition to the county board rules, just so everybody knows that. So, Supervisor Hanson?
Just a comment, Supervisor Baumann made a good point that it's for a year. If you sign up for a year, you will be donating for a year. You can't sign up in January and then say, I'm done, and the only way you would no longer be making that donation would be if you were terminated or you move on to other employment. So it's a year commitment to that organization. Thank you.
Thank you Supervisor Hanson. Any other discussion on the resolution or the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution amending county board rules.
Supervisor Giroux, Williams, and Holschbach. Okay, now, and Holschbach. Press confirm once again. There we go. We're getting there.
I did.
Supervisor Hanson, is yours where? You
It's
voted.
not. I must have greasy fingers tonight. Come on.
There we go. So the resolution to change our county board rules passed 24-0.
I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman, except that if you are at the county fair on Sunday afternoon and you're close to the tent that we're playing in, I will make you sing and dance. I think you owe that to your constituents.
All right. I guess I'll be there. If you can sing a little Metallica, I'd like to see Out of Time singing Metallica. That'd be interesting, but okay.
I know Supervisor Williams and Supervisor Benke can sing, so they will be on stage.
Any questions for Supervisor Hanson? Thank you very much. Highway Committee, Supervisor Giroux is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a very busy meeting. We met August 8th at 4:30. Commissioner Holson introduced Tim Moyer from Donahue and Associates, who gave us a brief history of Donahue and Associates and the engineering services offered by them. Jim Munzenmeyer from the city came to discuss moving the bus stop on County Trunk Highway R from the corner of Michigan and R up closer to the timeout, and that was referred to the Traffic Safety Committee meeting, which will be October 17th. We discussed a proposal from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation on local program oversight future, the positive and negative aspects of that. We approved the purchase of a new motor grader from Caterpillar. We had a follow-up from Commissioner Holson on the Northeast Commissioners meeting. We went over the updated 5-year plan for future road construction and maintenance. We discussed the upcoming renewal of the Northeast asphalt lease. We discussed the highway budget, reviewed that, and the airport budget, and some additional information for right-of-way on County Trunk Highway R and State Highway 151. We talked about some vacancies in the highway maintenance employee positions, went over the overtime report, and paid the bills. Next meeting is September 12th, and that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Giroux? Thank you very much. Human Services Board, Supervisor Henriksen is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next meeting will be August 24th at 4 p.m., where interested parties can come and give their input on our budget for the Human Services Board. After that, we will go right into our regular meeting. So if there's anybody that's interested in giving their input on our Human Services budget, it will be Thursday the 24th at 4 p.m. at the Human Services Building. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Henriksen? Thank you very much. Land Conservation Committee and Natural Resource and Education Committee. Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
The Land Conservation Committee was informed last meeting about possible funding for a planned development for the Pine Creek sub-watershed in Manitowoc County. 9 key elements plans provides a framework for improving water quality in a holistic manner without a geographic watershed. Planned developments will assess the contribution, causes, and the sources of non-point source pollution and prioritize restoration and protection strategies to address water quality problems. The next meeting of the Land Conservation will be September 28th. Natural Resource will be meeting this Thursday at 4:30 at the County Office Complex. Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? So if we discuss, I mean, I assume we will talk with Jerry Halverson and get the discussion of the bait ordinance on the agenda. Okay, thank you very much for that. Thank you, Supervisor Wagner. Any other questions? All right, Personnel Committee, Supervisor Benke is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met August 1st. Before I get to my resolution number 2, some of the items that we talked about was a proposal for a service called Teledoc Service, which is a kind of it's a system where you can call a doctor on the phone and get services from the doctor basically through the phone. It's a voluntary service. It was just up for discussion, and we will be looking further into that down the road. We also talked about a critical illness and accidental insurance that we will be offering to our employees effective January 1st. It's totally voluntary. We are a conduit only. It is just another benefit for a employee that wants to look at long-term down the line, maybe critical care, giving them an opportunity to put some money into that, looking down the line to cover long-term care and those types of critical accident and illness incidents. We also talked about funding employee retirement celebrations. We talked about different ways, and that will be included in the department's budgets, and that action will be placed on the September meeting. We will be looking at that again, but the concept is to basically participate in a minor manner in employees' retirements. Department directors would be charged with putting that item into their budget, and again, we talk about a minor. It's nothing that's going to be, but I think it's important to send, and the committee believes that it's important to send a message to the employees that we value their time served, that we participate in their ending of their career with Manitowoc County, and we participate in that. So I think it's a small measure. We will bringing that forward in the next month, and that's just kind of a heads up on that. Our next meeting will be September 5th at 4:45. I have a resolution number 2, which is general restriction on use of paid time off. And I so moved, Mr. Chair. I'll explain as I go.
So motion by Supervisor Benke, seconded by Supervisor Vogt. Yes, we're getting there. Discussion on the motion.
This is a cleanup of 12.01. It just clarifies that paid time off is considered in the 40-hour week. We didn't clarify that the pay period is a 2-week. We needed to clarify that that was a 40-hour week, so we don't garnish any overtime with that paid time off. We don't want to discourage that paid time off, but we want to make sure that we clarify that in the policy that it's regulated on a 40-hour week. So it's a clarification within the policy.
Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now, vote on the resolution amending Employee Policy Manual, Chapter 12.01, General Restriction on the Use of Paid Time Off.
Resolution passes 24-0.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Benke? I guess I got one quick, it isn't a question, and I have talked with Supervisor Benke about this already. As you know, we're coming to the budget season, the county board will be up for election, and I do have a pay proposal for the county board supervisors that I will be bringing to the September 5th Personnel Committee, and we'll be discussing that. It's a small raise, but I also have a potential per diem part of it as well. So I'll try to, when I get it done, I want to run it through with Corporation Council first, just to take a look at it first. and then I'll be sending it out to for discussion at the Personnel Committee, but I will also copy all the other supervisors by email as well, so. All right, thank you very much. Planning and Park Commission, Supervisor Walk is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 3 is a resolution authorizing the Ice Age Trail construction through Wallahai County Park. The Ice Age Trail system has about 1,000 miles of trail meandering through the state of Wisconsin. This particular segment is coming north out of Sheboygan County and entering the Wallahai area in the town of Schleswig, one of the scenic spots in Manitowoc County. And of course, they want to do their own trail in this situation. There's trails in that park already. The Wallahai Park is 160 acres. That whole area is about 2 sections of a township that has hardwood rolling hills, and it's an ideal place for this. In fact, the Ice Age Alliance has bought an additional 40 acres in that area, and next to it, another individual donated 132 acres. So, the Wallahai Park has been identified as a quarter of opportunity. And after consideration of the facts and circumstances relating to the construction, a segment of the Ice Age Trail through Wallahai County Park, the Planning and Park Commission recommends that Manitowoc County authorize the development and construction. And I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Walk, seconded by Supervisor Hanson. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing Ice Age Trail construction through Wallahai County Park.
Let's see. Resolution passes 24-0.
Item number 4 is an ordinance amending a map for Marjorie Bowden, and this is in the town of Cato. It's going from exclusive ag to large estate. It's 7.20 acres. There's very little farmland coming out of this rezoning request. The town of Cato and its planning commission support it, and I move for its adoption.
So motion by Supervisor Walk, seconded by Supervisor Holzbach. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending the zoning map for Marjorie Bodwin.
Ordinance passes 24-0.
Item number 5 is an ordinance amending the zoning map for Larry and Lori Buchholz, and this is in the town of Cooperstown. It's going from general ag to large estate. It's 5.23 acres. The town and their planning commission supports this, and there's minimal land or farmland involved, and I move for its adoption.
So motion by Supervisor Walk, seconded by Supervisor Zimmer. Discussion on the motion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Larry and Lori Buchholz.
Ordinance passes 24-0.
Item number 6 is a rezoning request in the town of Schleswig going from general ag to large estate. And it's 12.86 acres. The request here is from Joseph Ginanato. And the town and their planning commission supports this. There's no farmland involved. And it's being rezoned. And there's a home already on this property which will be split off from what's ever remaining. And I move for its adoption.
Motion by Supervisor Walk, seconded by Supervisor Falkowski. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the ordinance amending the zoning map for Joseph Gidanidu. I murdered that name.
Supervisor Kavanaugh, you want to try again? Or, let's get in there. Ordinance passes 24 to 0.
Item number 7 is a zoning map amendment for Herbert Mast and Lloyd Petersheim, and this is in the town of Rockland. It's 1 acre, and the town and their planning committee supports this. This rezoning request will give these individuals an opportunity to go to the Board of Adjustments to ask for a conditional use to establish a church cemetery, and I move for its adoption.
So motion by Supervisor Walk, seconded by Supervisor Falkowski. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Herbert and Myrna Mast and Lloyd and Carol Petersheim.
Supervisor Swade, yep, okay. Try once again. There we go. 24. Ordinance passes 24 to 0.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have at this time. Our next meeting will be the 4th Monday in September. Our advisory session at 3:30 and our regular meeting at 4 o'clock. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Walk? Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Supervisor Metzger.
I do have one. Under petitions, how you have, for number 3, Sandy Rivers, Town of Cassuth. I'm wondering, I know that something was passed in the town of Cassuth. I received a phone call tonight, right before the meeting, otherwise I would have called Susie on this. But do you know if they plan on having an assisted living right there on 310?
We haven't discussed that petition or that request yet. This is
Yeah,
for-
and we shouldn't be discussing this because it's not
Okay.
on the agenda, but
Okay.
I'm sure Supervisor Walk can certainly get with you after the
talk to you
meeting.
later.
Yes, exactly. All right, anything else for Supervisor Walk? Thank you very much. Now we'll go to Public Safety. Supervisor Henriksen is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met before the county board meeting tonight, and basically what brought forth was a resolution establishing an hourly rate of compensation for our combination commissioners. Basically, what will be coming in front of you is an adopted version of this resolution. Instead of the rate of $40 an hour, we amended that rate to be $30 an hour. And basically, we had asked, well, who came up with this, this hourly wage and whatever. Basically, the clerk of court, Lynn Zygmunt, had brought forth, what she had done is she had looked at a variance of different counties, what they charge and how they were charging. So she came up with the 40, but the committee thought that, you know, a lot of this was, we thought that it was a little bit high. So what we did was we amended the rate to $30 an hour. And with that amendment to that resolution, I still move to have it brought forward.
So motion by Supervisor Henriksen. Seconded by Supervisor Holzbach. Discussion on the motion. Yes, Supervisor Benke.
That resolution at the $40 on our agenda, it wasn't amended in our agenda, was it?
Correct, but.
So I would think at this point, if they wanted to bring in a different version, they should, by motion, amend that resolution on the floor, correct?
Peter?
I think Procedurally, the resolution that was brought forward by the committee indicated $30 per hour. So what, so the committee actually passed it at 40?
No.
The original resolution was 40.
It was 40 is what,
And then-
was what's in front of the county board.
Right, and they amended it
So,
to 30.
so what's in front of the county board is not the most current resolution, is the easiest way to say that. I don't believe you need to amend what was brought forward from the committee. There will be a clean resolution that will be presented for signature. But what is in front of the county board is a resolution with $30 per hour for the rate of compensation for the condemnation commissioners. I appreciate you asking that for clarity.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you Supervisor Benke. Okay, discussion on the resolution. Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution establishing an hourly rate of compensation for condemnation commissioners.
Resolution passes 23 to 1 with Supervisor Zimmer voting no.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you Supervisor Benke for clarifying that. Also, our next meeting will be September 13th at 5 p.m. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Henriksen? Thank you very much. Public Works Committee, Vice Chair Supervisor Dizak will be the chair tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on August 9th out at the Expo Center. We started with a tour of the Expo grounds. We had a focus on the improvements that were complete or in progress as a result of this property sale to Meyer. The updates included construction of the new special entertainment area where the tractor pulls and demo derbies and other things will happen, along with a very large area for bleachers with very sufficient seating for those events. Also, we saw the way they redid the parking structure, the parking areas, new campsites, and also a new pedestrian walkway to keep the pedestrians away from where the parking is going on for safety reasons. We moved on to the meeting, and Jerry Neuser reported on the following issues. First of all, the equipment update. The last major budgeted purchase of the major equipment of conveyors and hoppers for the recycling centers are scheduled for delivery on October 1st. Manitowoc County, next we have the Manitowoc County solid waste past due accounts. Mr. Neuser explained any past accounts that were tardy in payments to the county, and the committee approved further action by corporate counsel for collection if required. There has been movement on those issues, so we may not need any further action. Next, he reported on the UW Manitowoc renovation. The project is on schedule. The first phase of converting the old county boardroom and the bookstore area to the new library will be complete before Labor Day, and the remainder of the project completed by January 2nd of next year. A second pay request for $234,606.30 was approved. Last, he reported on the Law Enforcement Center Direct Digital Control Project. Completion is scheduled for mid-November, and the second pay request was approved for $5,000. Janelle Krizik then reported on preparations for the fair. As Mr. Supervisor Kavanaugh reported, it's going well, and we should be ready to go. Plenty of parking. That's the main concern, but we should have plenty of parking. She also wishes to extend an invitation that's also placed on your desk to the ribbon cutting ceremony for the special entertainment area on August 23rd at 7 p.m., just prior to the motorcycle stunt show. And lastly, there's a resolution for approval of an easement for First Chrysler's sanitary lines, which was tied into public utility line in 2001 and was not properly documented. There is an easement there already, and we're just going to get this on record, and I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, seconded by Supervisor Williams. Discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution granting a utility easement for Van Horn Automotive Group on the Manitowoc County Office Complex property.
Resolution passes 24-0.
That's all I have, except for our next meeting will be on September 13th. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Dizak? Just wondering if you'll be leading the pack with the motorcycle stunt group. You
Yeah,
go
count
through a
on that.
flaming ring of fire or something like that? That'd be interesting.
If I could drive a pickup.
That'd be more interesting. Thank you very much, Supervisor Dizak. Safety and Accountability Panel, our board. Supervisor Henriksen is our representative there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will have an updated report next month. I had my report was for last month, and I want to get it updated so it's current.
Any questions? Thank you very much. There is no Transportation Coordinating Committee report this evening. Miscellaneous, I'll turn over to Supervisor Benke. It's 2 resolutions in the town of Centerville for zoning, so.
Thank you,
we'll go with the
Mr.
first
Chairman.
one.
I have resolution number 10 for Jeremy and Stacy Klotz to a change from A3 to an A2 district in the town of Centerville. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Benke, second by Supervisor Ballman. Discussion on the resolution.
I am reading the number on my resolution. It says 10. Okay, I'll go by the agenda.
So
What do
we're
you-
all,
What do you all have for 10?
so we're all on the same page. We're voting essentially on number 11, the one for Jeremy and Stacy Klotz. So we,
All right, we're going to do the Klotz.
let's make sure, I just want to make sure they have it up here, correct? Are we good with that? Okay. If there's nothing else, that's the one we're doing first, yes. So, there's no discussion, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will be voting on the resolution approving the town of Centerville zoning ordinance for Jeremy and Stacy Klotz.
Resolution passes 24-0. Now
All
the
right.
Wiesners.
Now we're going to do what I have as number 11. Tony and Lindsay Wiesner, a zone change from A3 to A4. I so move.
Motion by Supervisor Benke. Second by Supervisor Dizak. Discussion on the resolution. Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution approving the town of Centerville zoning ordinance for Tony and Lindsay Wiesner.
Yep, it just takes a while, I think. Resolution passes 24-0. Thank you very much, Supervisor Benke. No announcements tonight, just everybody enjoy the fair, hopefully you get, oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Vogel.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to go back and revisit the baiting situation once again. Is there any way that these meetings could be fast-tracked? Bow hunting, I have a county area, as everybody knows, that goes all the way to St. Nazianz and to Highway F and back to the lake. Supervisor Benke's got a large area, Supervisor Kavanaugh's got a large area, and a lot of us do. I'm fielding a lot of calls from hunters regarding this. The state law was repealed.
I'll cut right to the chase, Supervisor Vogel, because it's not really on the agenda, but I will work with Supervisor Wagner, but potentially have a different meeting.
Okay.
Before that time, and like I've gone on record, I guess, I'm certainly not opposed to hunting, and I think this potentially is, our ordinance, although it's still legal, is unenforceable. I will refer to the discretion of the Land Conservation Committee of what their recommendation is to the board, so. I will work with Supervisor Wagner, maybe we can set up something earlier than, I appreciate your comments, so.
I appreciate that, and I think the hunters would appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other thing? Supervisor Henriksen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank all the concerns about my wife last month, and I deeply appreciate all the concerns and good wishes. Thank you very much, every one of you.
Any other announcements or anything? Otherwise, I'll accept that. Supervisor Metzger.
I sit on the Lakeshore Cap Board, and in August, we had a fundraiser. The Ant Hill Mob came and did a whole day event, and it's going to be announced at the Manitowoc County Fair how much proceeds will go to Lakeshore Cap. I just thought I'd let everybody know that. And last week, they also had a fundraiser, the CASA had one, and it's for the children. We don't know yet how much we took in for that. And there's one coming up September 9th, and it's actually on the 8th. They're having it's a pig-to-pig walk. So on the 8th, they're having a brat fry, and the 9th, they're also having a brat fry. So anybody that would like to do that or do the walk is on the 9th, and the proceeds for that go for emergency funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Metzger. Motion to adjourn will be in order. Motion by Supervisor Benke, second by Supervisor Droll. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.